It is 4 minutes past 6 in the morning on Friday, March 7th. Officer Chen walks the second tier of Housing Unit D at Millwood Federal Correctional, and when he stops at cell 22, the man inside does not sit up. He never does. Chen keys the door open. The bunk is warm, because the man in the bunk is a folded prison blanket wrapped around a stack of textbooks and a hairpiece cut from a mop head. Cell 29, same thing. Cell 34. Cell 41. 4 inmates, 4 dummies. 4 beds slept in for 11 straight months and empty tonight. And behind the wall of the vocational workshop, 3 floors down and 40 feet out, is a hole in the ground the size of a man's shoulders that nobody knew existed until this moment. 43 feet of it, 11 months of it, dug 6 inches at a time, with tools that came through the front gate taped inside a corrections officer's boot. Half a mile away, in a maintenance culvert next to the state road, a 51-year-old night shift plumber named Anthony Reyes is lying face down in 3 inches of standing water with a fractured skull. And by the time anyone finds him, he will have been there for 6 hours. Nobody planned for him. That is the part that ruins everything. This is how 4 men got out. And it started, like everything else these people ever did, with a calendar and a promise. 13 months before that morning, in a visiting room lit like a supermarket, Wesley Grant, the man they call Doc, sits across from a woman he has not seen since sentencing. She is his younger sister Sabrina. She is a paralegal in Newark. She has never had so much as a parking ticket. And what he says to her that afternoon, he says exactly once, because the room is loud and the cameras have no microphones. He says, "I am not doing 12 years. I am going to do 18 months, and then I am going to leave. When I leave, I am going to need you, because there is nobody else." He does not tell her that day what the risk actually is. She learns that later, from Solomon, on the 3rd visit, sitting across a booth in a diner in Passaic. Solomon tells her, in flat language, that harboring a federal fugitive is up to 5 years, but that if the fugitive has hurt somebody on the way out, anyone, the number goes to 20. He does not soften it. She listens for 40 minutes, and she does not sleep that night. She answers on the 4th visit, in March, and what she says is one word. Okay. This is where every escape actually starts, not with a shovel. With one person on the outside who agrees, knowing exactly what she is agreeing to become a fugitive on your behalf. Millwood is not the prison in the movies. It is medium security. 87 acres, 2,400 inmates, a fence with 2 rings of concertina wire, cameras that were installed in 1998 and mostly still work. It is also, on a Wednesday afternoon the previous October, the place where Doc watches a man he has spoken to twice die on the concrete of the exercise yard over a debt of $47 in under 30 seconds. The man's name was Ellison. He is stabbed in the neck with a filed-down toothbrush by another inmate whose name Doc will never learn. And by the time the yard whistle blows, Ellison is not breathing. Doc is standing 8 feet away. He does not move, and he does not speak to the officers when they arrive. That night in his cell, he decides that 18 months is the outside number. He is not going to be in this place for the 12. Now. The men he pulls with him are the men he was already convicted with, and that is not a choice he gets to make. 10 people robbed that vault. 8 of them went to prison. And the Bureau of Prisons does not house co-defendants together on purpose. It separates them, deliberately, by security classification and available bed space. Reggie and Deshaun went to a facility in central Pennsylvania. Antonio, who had the cleanest record of any of them, drew a low-security camp in Virginia. Elena testified at trial, and she is serving her time somewhere the Bureau will not confirm. And through nothing but paperwork, arithmetic, and one badly overcrowded intake week, 4 men off the same crew, the demolition man, the locksmith, the electronics kid, and the lifter, all landed inside the same building in upstate New York. Nobody assembled this team. A filing system did. Levi, 22, in for the alarm work, does not talk to anyone. He sits in the library and reads schematics. Marcus, 60, walks the perimeter every yard hour and writes nothing down because he does not have to. Tommy, 29, is a problem. Tommy has already been in 3 fights this year, one with a knife, and once he broke another inmate's jaw so badly the man had to eat through a straw for 6 weeks. Doc knows the only way to keep Tommy out of a hole is to give him something to build. The place they build it is the vocational workshop, where inmates make license plates and metal shelving units for state offices. Nobody watches metalwork close enough. The tools are counted at the start and end of every shift, but a diamond grit shard the size of a fingernail can travel inside a work boot for a full year without ever being seen. Every prison story turns on one person who is not supposed to matter. His name is Ray Delgado. Corrections officer, 41 years old, 11 years on the job, 2 mortgages, and a gambling debt of $87,000 owed to a family in Elizabeth, New Jersey that does not have lawyers on retainer. The debt is what Solomon finds first, 3 weeks before he ever approaches Delgado. Solomon does not offer Delgado the money to make life better. He offers him the money to make life possible. Because Ray Delgado has by then already been given a deadline. Solomon buys him for $180,000 in cash, paid in 3 drops at 3 different intersections in New Jersey, and Ray Delgado does not open a single door. That is important. He does not smuggle a rope. He does not shut off a camera. What he does is smaller and worse. He looks the other way. He stops walking the sub-basement corridor between 11 and midnight on Thursday nights, because Thursdays are when the dig actually happens. He mentions, once, over a coffee, that the drainage grate behind the workshop was welded shut in 2004 and nobody has checked it since. He brings in 2 small tips of diamond-cutting grit taped to the inside of his work boots. That is his whole contribution. He never sees the tunnel. He never asks about it. He takes the money, and he pays off the family in Elizabeth, and he sleeps for the first time in 6 months. The plan is not clever. It is patient. Behind the workshop's back wall is a maintenance corridor that has not been used since the boiler was replaced. Behind that corridor is 40 feet of packed clay, and beyond the clay is an old storm drain that runs a mile downhill to a culvert next to the state road. You do not have to break through a wall in Millwood. You have to break through cinder block, then dirt, then a rusted grate, then walk out. But you have to do it in 6-inch increments, at night, 1 man at a time, and you have to make the wall look exactly the same in the morning. Doc calculates the dig at 11 months if nothing goes wrong, 12 if it does. They start in April. And the first thing they build, before the tunnel, is the covers. 4 rectangles of painted plywood, cut to the exact shape of the workshop cinder blocks they are removing, glued to real block face on the outside so that even a guard running his hand along the wall feels stone. That is the trick, not the tunnel. The 4 small rectangles of wood that let the tunnel exist at all. 6 inches a night. That is the pace. Any faster and the workshop grinder overheats, or the noise carries, or somebody notices the pile of clay building up behind the drill press. And in month 5, at 2:14 in the morning on a Thursday in September, 21 feet in, a section of the tunnel ceiling comes down on Marcus. Wet clay collapses across his hips and shoulders in the dark, pinning him face down with his arms trapped under his chest. He cannot inhale properly for what he later says felt like 10 minutes and was probably 40 seconds. Levi and Tommy dig him out with their bare hands. Nobody speaks for the rest of that shift. The next night, they shore the ceiling with cut plywood ribs and continue at 3 inches an hour instead of 6. And nobody mentions again that they almost lost a man to a hole they were digging themselves. The clay is the other problem. 40 feet of it, a wheelbarrow's worth every 3 nights, and it cannot leave the building. So they put it in coffee cans. They put it in laundry bags. They pack it inside the frames of the metal shelving units they are supposed to be making. And then they ship those units, on state contracts, out to 140 government offices across upstate New York. By month 8, they are 28 feet in. By month 10, they hit the storm drain, and the grate cuts open in under an hour because diamond grit will eat corroded steel like it is nothing. And then they stop. They stop for 4 full weeks, because a hole that reaches the outside is not an escape. An escape is a hole that reaches the outside on a night when nobody notices. While the 4 of them are digging, Sabrina Grant is building a life for people who do not exist yet. She rents a small house in Erie, Pennsylvania, in the name of a woman who died in 1989, and she pays cash. She buys a used Nissan sedan under the same name and never registers it in her own. Solomon uses old jeweler contacts to source 4 sets of documents: a birth certificate, a social security card, and a driver's license each, from 4 different states, all in names of people who are quietly dead. The documents cost $80,000, and they are good enough for a traffic stop but not good enough for an airport. The plan does not involve airports. The plan involves a Nissan, a bus, a rowboat, a fishing trawler, and one very specific hole in the ground behind a vocational workshop. Sabrina does not sleep well. She's never done anything wrong in her life. She's about to become, in the eyes of the federal government, a fugitive. Thursday, March 6th, 11 o'clock. Lockdown was at 10, but Housing Unit D has been quiet for an hour. In cells 22, 29, 34, and 41, 4 men fold their bunks with the same care they have folded them every night for 11 months. At 11:20, in the workshop 3 floors down, Levi kills the sensor on the sub-basement door with a small device the size of a lighter that he's been building for 6 weeks out of parts nobody thought were parts. Doc lifts the first plywood cover off the wall. It comes away clean. Marcus goes first because Marcus is the oldest and the slowest, and if he panics in the tunnel, the whole thing is over. He does not panic this time. 22 minutes later, 43 feet of clay behind them, they stand in a storm drain a quarter of a mile from the state road. And this is where the plan touches something it did not plan for. His name is Anthony Reyes. He is 51 years old. He is a night shift contractor for the county drainage department, and he was not supposed to be down there. There was heavy rain the previous day, and he has come out at midnight to check a pump outflow at the culvert junction, and he is standing with his back to the tunnel exit when the 4 of them come out. He turns. He sees them. He opens his mouth. Levi hits him behind the ear with a section of galvanized pipe that he is holding for exactly this reason. Anthony Reyes falls face down into 3 inches of standing water. Tommy wants to make sure he stays there. Doc says no. Doc pulls him up by the collar so his face is out of the water. Doc says we leave on schedule. They leave him breathing, on his side, in the drain. He will be found 6 hours later. He will live. He will never walk without a cane again. And on a Thursday night in March, in a drainage culvert in upstate New York, 4 escaped federal inmates just added attempted murder to the list. They have been out of their cells for 42 minutes. Nobody in the building knows. Nobody in the building will know for another 5 hours and 49 minutes. What happens after that is 1,000 federal agents, 47 days, $23 million, and the fact that 2 of these 4 men are already inside the last 3 weeks of their lives. That is part 2.